Yes. Hi, Jonas.
It's here.
It's there.
Great.
So, because this is quite an interesting book for you, I think, because it tells something about the process.
Yeah.
From I think it's here in all the earlier sketches, and well, there is not. It went quite quickly through the actual project, and but, here it's from Värneby to cathedral,
Yeah.
from preservation building to cathedral. It's so it tells something about the story, because also one thing is the shape and this vaulted dome that creates the space, but what made also a fantastic difference when it comes to experiencing the ruin was the flooring.
Yeah.
Because the flooring originally it was just grass, everywhere.
Yeah.
So you just went around this ruin and you couldn't really, it was very interesting, but you couldn't really understand very much.
Yeah.
But by recreating the flooring inside the church.
Yeah. True.
It became very much more, the space. You can, if you want, you can borrow it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks so much for that. Yeah.
But I think it's the only copy we have, so we would.
Yeah, I will make a copy of this and then return to.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So then the feature of that the reverberation of space was quite good for taking concert. Has been intentionally designed by architects.
Yes, well, but I think we never really calculated the acoustic aspect of it.
Yeah.
And because the preservation authorities were the official clients, they didn't put any money into calculating it and so on, and so this all through the process it was this kind of two-sided affairs, because the museum people they were very interested in how they could use this building and to what purposes and so on. But on the other hand, the preservation people, they were not interested in that aspect, really. They were very hardcore preservation, and it was an expensive project, so they didn't want to use any more money. They were just going to preserve this ruin. But it was it was an interesting and in a way and a happy development, because when as the project went along and when you started, the actual building on site, I think even the preservation people understood that, this was such an amazing opportunity to make a building that could actually work and have more functions. And so it was. It became a little bit more open in the end, and we also designed some actual church elements inside the building, as the altar and the preacher. We designed, all the elements, and we and the lighting is especially designed. And of course,
so the agreement.
But that was actually the museum that paid us for many of these elements.
I see. Yeah.
So they come from the side, came from the side, and funded these elements because the preservation authorities didn't want to pay for the altar.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
It was not there. So we had in the later stages sort of two-sided affairs. But it was accepted in a way. So it became a happy ending, and everybody was very pleased in the end.
That's great.
Because, and as I said, when we started out with the early pre-project, after the early pre-project, and we started again, and then Stadsbygg, as I mentioned, came along, and they were going to take over the project as a professional builder. Because they had not been involved in the first pre-project, Stadsbygg. Then it was only the preservation authorities that had, done this by themselves. Statsbygg then were very skeptical about the project technically.
Yeah.
And not only the old one, but they were very, they were worried about this huge glass structure and the complications and all the complicated geometry and how to keep it sealed, not to have a lot of leakages and so on.
Yeah.
And they were very concerned. It was a lot of convincing to do. So. But this whole detailing process, I was then in charge of this whole detailing project. So during the whole from the restart from the competition project to the realization, I was very much in charge. But Kjell, we spoke, every week and discussed matters. But I can say I'm responsible for the actual design, if you understand what the actual design. But Kjell is definitely responsible for the overall design, for the conceptual design.
So this work is nothing to do with Slotto?
No, not at all. Slotto was in the later stages of the collaboration between Nils and Kjell and Nils. They were not working together really. They were very separated. So when I during those years when I knew them, they never worked together on any project. So I worked with both. I was, the middleman, or not the middleman, but I worked mainly with Kjell. Nils was 7 years older than Nils, than Kjell, and he became sick in the 90s, and then he actually died in 97, I think.
Yes,
So he was not very active anyway. He only had some small projects during the last 10 years. So I worked a little bit with Nils, but mainly with Kjell.
So what the difference of your impression between these two guys?
They were, they had certain similarities, and they were, of course, certain differences. They were very, strong characters. How shall I put it? As I told you, Kjell was never really that much into the detailing. He was very interested. He was, and especially when it came to choices of material, the feel of things, the color. And he was very much into that, but he was perhaps not so
into the execution.
He was very, as a leader, as a leader of the office, he was very good at using other people who were clever at this. Like myself. But before me, others who have started, their own firms, and are well-known architects. So he was very good at this, seeing the people with talent and then using them for all it's worth. So and he also it was in a way a little bit old-fashioned. It's not the way we work today, but he was very much like he would single out one or two persons in the firm and then work very closely with them. And he singled me out very early, so I worked very closely with him. But he didn't have any contact with the rest. It's not like the way we are doing it now, because we're now involving practically all the office in different ways. It's much more open-minded. But he was very concentrated in his work, and I think that's why he only chose a couple that he knew he would get interesting feedback from, and have this kind of collaboration. Nils was but by using different collaborators, Kjell could handle quite a few projects
Yeah.
at the time,
Yeah.
because he was involved in many projects.
Yes.
And Niels was never involved in many projects at the time, because when he was involved in project, he was involved in everything. He down to the detail, and he was completely immersed. So.
Then he probably sort of Sven sort of architect.
Sorry, it's very fun. More in a way.
Yeah.
Definitely, and it was definitely down to the detail, and it was very It was very hierarchy. You know, it was very much him designing everything. So I think actually there was less discussion with Niels, but because Kjell wanted the discussion, but only with the selected few.
Yeah.
But and then he let them handle the execution. In that way, he could handle more projects. So if you look at the history of Lønneslottet, there are many more Kjell buildings.
Yeah, true.
Than Nyslottet buildings. But at the same time, many of the Kjell buildings is actually Kjell and some other creative person, like myself, in this
definitely. That's I noticed that.
While the Nyslottet buildings are very much Nyslottet.
True. That's very true. That's I did notice that the features of works from Solund are so diverse. Yeah. So
yes, and he was very open-minded in a way. He was perhaps not completely open-minded. But he was always searching. That's a better word, because he had a definite architectural agenda in a way. But that agenda changed all the time. He didn't want to make two buildings the same. He was in a way restless. So he was always searching, and that was how he used me and others, to get input. But I have reflected quite a lot about that, of course, in my earlier days, because it was a kind of creativity that you knew you had to. I couldn't just be creative on my own, because I had to understand Kjell's universe. His search were not like that. It went always further, but you had to match his path through the woods. Somehow. But this was very interesting for me, because I learned very much from Kjell about the creative process, really, and his this searching attitude is always, never repeating yourself and finding the solution you do not know about. Actually, this allegory about the wood is actually quite good, because you are working inside this wood and you're trying to find the path through the wood, but you don't actually know where it is until you have made it, and then you understand. Now I'm there, and I'm starting to get there. And this relentless, I will call Kjell. He was very relentless in this search. He never gave up. He was he was quite impressive in that he, even if the result was 90%, he was very happy, the day we parted. But the next morning he was, it's good, it's very good, but should we try something else? This relentlessness is something I have. I always make I often make the statement now in the office that if there is a small doubt in your head, then it's not finished. Even the tiniest doubt, because we as architect, as a promoter, in a way, authors of this, we love our object. But if we, like the authors of the object, only have a small, bad feeling somewhere in the back of your brain, you have to take it forward, as I say. You have to, grab this bad feeling and really put it in your consciousness. What is bad about this? Because if you do not like to do this process, it's so easy to just oh, it's okay, it's fine because you have done this and it has to be like that. So, and this fundamental process is something I was very much trained by Kjell, and it's something that has fascinated me ever since. Yeah. So I'm trying, it's not actually how to do a building, but it's more the creative process in itself. Yeah. That's the legacy of
definitely. Yeah,
Kjell.
I totally can understand this feeling. That I think it's a very precious quality as a good architect.
Yeah. It is, because it's so, architecture is so complicated and it's so hard to envisage completely when you are working with it before it's there, and so this is something we have developed a lot, and it's definitely from, in a way, Kjell. Maybe we would have become the same without Kjell. I'm not sure. You can never tell, but I learned a lot from him. In this, so
I
feel a little bit about.
I feel sort of the same as my experience with to work with my former boss, and he always drove, the subordinate architect crazy with this, just turn it around. That's it.
Yeah, of course, and it's. Exhausting in a way.
Yeah, true.
And but both Nils and Kjell were extremely dedicated architects. They lived architecture. They filled their whole lives with it in a way. And that's I'm a slightly different personality. I feel I work extremely intensely with architecture, and I work long hours every day and so on. But I feel a need actually mentally to do something else, because if not, I dream architecture and so on, and it becomes too much. You are sort of claustrophobic, and for me, I think it's very important to actually think about other things and to be. For some hours of the day, because when you come back to the architecture, then I feel more fresh. I get more. But that is my personality. Neither Kjell nor Nils was this. They just. I think they thought about architecture through dinner and when they went to bed and when they brushed their teeth.
They worked all the way.
They worked all the time. And sometimes, of course, I also do that. Stand and brush my teeth and think about quite often actually, but I'm very concerned about for myself to actually switch and think about all these things. Because for me, I often find that when I have been just away from the problems about the project or then I come quicker to the solution when I come back. Because you look at it. With new eyes. But that's different personalities.
True.
It's not.
Definitely.
It's not.
A small extra question. So, is that the work of St. Halvard Church typical work from Slun or Slatto?
Lund. At that time, they were. Working more closely together. That's an early project. And I talked quite a lot with Kjell about that project, and it's definitely Kjell that got the idea. This crazy idea about turning the globe the other way around. And he has this. He always. I heard his story when he told how this came along many times, but there is no doubt that the conceptual idea was very much Kjell. But at that time, Kjell and Nils were much closer in their collaboration. Very close. And I think the actual building was also a lot of due to Nils. The actual feel of the material and all detailing and so on. So that's a collaborative building, but the concept was Kjell's. So I'm quite sure about that, even though it's
Yeah.
But then after 10 years, when they worked very close together, gradually they drifted apart, and I think it was more like they were strong personalities, and they were not, and they became big personalities.
Yeah,
they had their egos, and it was they were not good at then mixing the two egos. So during period of 20 years, they more and more separated their practice in a way. They were, so in the later stages they were not close friends. They were friends, of course, but they were not close friends. They started out as very close friends. But it's probably a natural way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's not.
I was so impressed by that work when I visit in this May, and I think it's definitely a masterpiece of modern masonry work. So,
I totally agree. It's
an
iconic building in a way. Modern.
And then they made that work in their 30s. That's they're genius. Then we go back to the work. So, from the literature reference, it was also said that the construction was completed very fast without any accident because of the computer technology was used and be able to get maximum accuracy in cutting elements and control over the construction process. So, do you know any details about this?
Sure, I know very much about that. And that was another reason we were very, in retrospect, that was another reason we were very happy that, in retrospect, that the building was not actually built 10 years earlier. Because at that time they didn't have the technology really to handle this complex geometry. So, 10 years later, then in the 90s, we were quite in the forefront in Norway, at least, when it came to, 3D digital.
So when was the year that this computer assistant design software has been taken into use for architects in Norway?
As I say, we were very much, our firm was very much in the forefront during those years. So I don't know whether that is the common use, but actually, even, and now we're even talking just two-dimensional digital drawing, CAD. CAD did, when I started the office in 1990, the office had this huge project for one of the biggest banks. It never was built, so it never came to fruition. But this project they used as an opportunity because the bank was very interested in CAD technology. So Runderslotter was able to convince the bank to finance, this huge computer park, and then it was incredibly expensive. Incredibly, and I was so amazed because this happened just before I started. I was so amazed that they actually were able to convince the bank to use such a lot of money, because it's of course the CAD computers were nothing compared to a normal laptop today, but they were immensely expensive. They cost I think at that time, I think each machine costs around between 200,000 and 300,000 for each machine, and we had to have a park for that project, so we had some 6 or 8 of those. And at that time, 200,000 to 300,000. Now it's the same as 500,000. So they made it. So that gave us, of course, our firm, and a big head start compared to the other offices.
Definitely.
So we had CAD drawing very early on. And when we came to this, I'm not quite sure which year we are now talking. You maybe know that. Is it 90s?
You mean the construction?
When we started on the second pre-project, when I started work on this, it's probably here somewhere. I think it's about 95 or something.
Yeah.
Then we had, worked with CAD drawing for some time, and we had started with 3D CAD, very, earlier than most others.
Yeah.
And we understood that when we, this very complex shape and the complex geometry, then we really had to use, the three-dimensional CAD tools for, what we could use them for at the time. So it's definitely the first big building that was actually designed in detail in 3D. So we had this computer model, this three-dimensional computer model that was completely detailed. Everything was drawn into it.
That's impressive.
And then we made two-dimensional drawings from that. Of course, you had to have some two-dimensional drawings because you had to have every sheet of glass and everything, and all the constructional members.
Yeah.
But all measures and all elements in this building is taken from a three-dimensional CAD model.
Yeah.
And
that's so impressive.
And simply, we didn't have that technology 10 years before. Simply, so then everything had to be calculated in 2D, and I can't think about how that project would have been built. It would have been. I think it would have been a disaster, because I don't think they could have handled it, but we could. And we handled it. We had some very. I had a very clever right-hand guy who was working on this model, and I was working with him and designing, and he was putting everything in, and we could see every corner and all the differences, because it's a complicated geometry. The geometry is, of course, you have the steel geometry, and then you have the glass geometry. Going out in perpendicular, but in different directions because it's a curved surface and with a curved main axis also. So everything was, without doing it in 3D, I don't know how we could have done it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But the result was, as you say, when we were at Startbygg, was very impressed, because we produced this building without any fault. We didn't have any false measure on any part, anything. And there were some glass panels that were actually produced, some few, but that was Pilkington's problem. It was not. The fault didn't came. It didn't came from our drawings. So we were quite proud of that.
It's really impressive.
Because everything is in this system, everything actually is slightly different. There are no two panels, or actually there are some on the opposite diagonal. There are 2 and 2s, but they are longer on the one side. So many of these, all of them are practically individual, and also just these points. They are not. There is no fixed measure, so they will actually be different from each panel. So
the same case for civil engineers.
Well, we designed the whole construction. Actually, the civil engineers only gave the input, the constructional input, but they didn't have any. They didn't actually do their own drawings. They made all calculations from our drawings. So but when it came to the production line, so it was not actually the one being responsible. They had also this. They had also acquired this three-dimensional planning tool for their own production. And so they, in a way, they took our model, but in a way they constructed it in the new program, and in that sense they got this quality assurance, because they could, check that everything fitted in their model as it fitted in our model. But at that time, these programs were not completely compatible, so they couldn't just take our model into their program.
Yes.
But that was when they came to the construction phase, to the civil engineers of the construction. The civil engineer actually calculating the construction earlier, for Stadsbygg, they were just using our drawings and our models.
So in China, civil engineers and architects always work together in one firm. So it's, that's quite how the civil engineers and architects collaborated in Norway. It's quite question for me.
So this. For this project, it was much closer to the Chinese model. We were. They were. It was basically one person, very clever person, and he was basically sort of part of our firm because he was just working in our drawings. He didn't make separate drawings, which is very common in Norway. But so it was very closely knitted.
Interesting.
So
So when I worked on the previous interview with the museum people, both Steiner, the former director of the Hedmark Museum, and to Sasser, the present curator, they have mentioned that there were quite strong opposition from the local community in Hamar before the construction of the glass cathedral. And I also noticed that is not the only case for Lund Plassado. For example, I've read that it was also the same difficulties for the architects in the project of Stavanger Culture Center. I think that must be quite challenging for architects, especially in a democratic society.
Yes, definitely. It was a controversial project, very much so. It's, many people had this very clear. They remembered the ruin as a very beautiful ruin in a natural landscape. And it's quite understandable, I think, that many, especially the older people, then had this sentimental understanding of the ruins on the Hamar Odden. And it was pictured in, you have seen maybe some of the old romantic pictures from far. I don't know if there is anything in the book, but it has been painted by famous artists, 200 years back and so on. This ruin into the big lake. So the whole project of building something, a new structure, a modern structure above and around it, it was controversial, quite understandable. But of course, you may know that the preservation authorities, the National Preservation Authorities, Riksantikvaren, they said that this ruin is, they made a lot of measurements and so on, and it deteriorated. The deterioration of the ruin was actually accelerating because of the water coming into the ruin and frost actually expanding, the ice expanding, and also the polluted rain from Great Britain and so on. That has actually become better now, during the last 20 years. But during the 60s, 70s and 80s, it was a problem with this acid rain.
It did had the risk to be collapsed. As a message I got from the archaeologists.
So what they actually did when they, in the middle of the 80s, I think, about in the mid 80s, they actually put this big green, what do you call it, preserving plastic affair around it. And that was really the worst of all worlds, in a way. Nobody could see the ruin. It was just a very bad-looking plastic affair. And it was standing like that for more than 10 years.
Wow.
Because it was standing. They did this before the competition, some years before the competition, and until it was finished.
Yeah.
It was. I think it must have been almost 15 years. So that was really the only argument. You know, do you want it like this? Do you want it to fall down?
Yeah.
Or do you want it to have it inside a new modern preservation building?
Yeah.
But you know how a popular discussion is. They want the impossible thing. They want the old ruin standing in the natural landscape.
Yeah.
But that was not an option. It was simply not an option, because the preservation authorities, they are, as I say, hardcore. It has to be preserved.
Yeah.
It's more important for them to preserve it within this plastic bag rather than having it falling down.
Yeah.
They don't, care so much about whether people see it or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Because their job is to preserve. So there was never an option to take out of the plastic bag and then just have it fallen down.
Yeah.
Because ideologically you can have this. It's an irrelevant opinion, I think, that perhaps ruins should have their own fate in a way and let the time go by, and maybe it will disappear. But that was never an option.
Yeah.
in Norway in 2000 or in 1985, it was not an option.
I think that's a sort of a typical conception from Ruskin.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. So that, of course, that was the starting point for the competition, actually. And I don't know if you have studied the competition proposals, but there were some. The second placed. I remember the second placed competition entry.
Yeah.
It was a very literal. It was a reconstruction of the old church in glass.
Like in Nidarosdomen? The way it worked like in Nidarosdomen?
Yes, but this was a glass building.
Yeah.
So it was with the towers and everything, made in glass. It was, naive and banal,
Yeah.
So maybe, but the happy ending to it is that it has become a very popular landmark
true.
and a very popular building.
Yeah, definitely. Because,
so it's a good, happy ending to the story.
Yeah, definitely. That's very well. I was so impressed that when Director Steiner, he said the story about it. He said the whole rejection just disappeared after the first concert been holding and in that building, and all people feel the magic of the space. It's that's impressive.
Yes, it's very nice. So we were very pleased about the way it went, and the way it ended. So it got a lot of attention, both from architects and from the general public, and I think we made, not only we as architects, but the whole project group, and I think we made the right decisions generally concerning how to do this building, and because everything was a big discussion about. I mentioned the floor, making a new floor inside the ruin. The preservation, the authorities were, they were very uncertain about this because it's a way of reconstructing something which is not original. So they were very uncertain about for a long time whether it should only be, grass through inside the ruin. But we were very much convinced that it should be, because if you didn't have this hard surface, for one thing, you can understand the old building very well, and the other thing is, of course, that you can use it for very much. I mean, it would have been
true.
And not a very usable space. So, but all these kinds of considerations, there were long discussions about everything. You have probably noticed that there is a part of the floor where you can actually look down to the old floor, and the brick floor, through a glass part of the floor. So everything was, then they were happy, because then it was a honest expression, but you could see that this is a new floor, but this is the floor had been changed also through the ages, so they didn't actually know how it was all in all phases.
But I think it's just rather easy to recognize the different layers.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, as architect, how do you feel about the different features among all those different architectural conservation projects in Hedmark Museum, especially the different quality between the works of Storhammerloven made by Sven Fehn and the work of Schlim?
Yes, it's an interesting comparison. Of course, Sven Fehn and his office has also made this other preservation, small preservation unit on the other side, on the inside of the courtyard. Storhammerloven is perhaps the most interesting thing with Storhammerloven, and the beautiful thing with Storhammerloven is it's quite a different kind of preservation project, I think, and I think it's a beautiful project, and the way it interacts with the old elements, in a way, it's more direct. It's more on the. Of course, he did complete the overall building, but I don't think that is the main part of the project. The main part of the project is actually how you experience the old items and the old ruins inside, especially items. So, in the way I see the Sverre Fehn project, the Storhammerloven, for me, it's more like I wouldn't say interior project, but it's in a way it's an exhibition project more than anything. It's this beautiful way of using quite a few materials, mainly steel, actually, just in a modern way and in a modern and a quite specific aesthetic. Quite clean, but also architecturally shaped. There are a lot of, in a way, it's more active in a direct relation to the object being preserved and shown, and it's a very beautiful element. It's Sverre Fehn was in the 80s often compared with the Italian architect Carlo Scarpa. And of course they have a similarity with this aesthetic. It's a very aesthetic way of, and with a great sense of sensibility, really, with a great sense of feeling, really, for the object and for the modern. The modern part of the whole. It's very interesting, but it's not. Our project was, of course, quite different. We were not really that much interacting, and our project was not an exhibition project. It was a preservation project. So it's really we started from another side in a way, and if we are. The main project was really not, as we have talked about, not to make a church space. And these church elements, they came very late in the process. They were quite a different kind of sort of design process. Because then we had to interact with the ruin, and they were much more closely related to the ruin. But it was all actually this dome, this skull. What's it called? It's this construction, of course, spanning over the ruin. It was not actually touching the ruin anywhere. It was touching just the perimeter.
Yes, definitely.
And that's part of the concept. So it, as we talked about, it took certain main elements, the main vault, the main direction, and the main transection. What's it called? The aisle. This cross-shaped form, and so it took on a very overall level. It relates to the church.
Yeah.
But from that on, it's a very technical structure in a way. And for me, as responsible for designing this project, designing all the detailing and so on, for me it became very clear whether it is the correct answer or not. You have to decide, or everybody has to decide. But for me, it became very clear that it was I used a very reductionist principle in the way that there is not much design, active shaping, because I think that would have become a disturbance. So I tried to make a clean construction, a very pure, a purity in the construction. The overall shape is active. It has the activity. Sort of. This is visually with the curving slides and the big vault. That's enough. In a way, I felt very strongly. There is so much construction going on. We should definitely not do anything more than what is absolutely needed.
I think that's
so this was very strongly
true
in my mind, and we worked very consciously with this. So this was not to say that we had to do it as simple as necessary, but as pure as possible. That's not necessarily the most simple way, because you always have an engineering way that is more simple in a way, you understand, more economical. But we try to have it as visually and conceptually as pure as possible, so that construction doesn't detract the attention of the ruin more than is necessary, of course, because it is a big construction. So if you study the construction, there are no sort of, in a way, almost impersonal. It's not. We didn't want to make it a design element actively. It was very interesting. It was almost like a cleansing process for us, working on it. And for me personally, it was like always reducing to the necessary element, making a clear cut, precise building and construction, and that beauty should be like the reductionist, almost Mises sort of. And this is very different from when you do a building that is standing by itself. We of course we are, as an office, we are working with not too much. We are not Niels Torp. We are, Niels Torp, the architect in Norway. He's quite famous. He's doing a lot of shapes. We don't think they are always completely valid. If they have no reason for them, it's more like doing something. We are very much far from that. We are very. We as an office, we are always thinking structurally and functionally, and then making the shape from that sort of. So we are much more reductionist than many other architects in Norway. So this is, but this was an extreme case, definitely. I've never worked through a process where this has, and it felt just right. And I'm quite happy with the result. I don't think we should have done, and I think the people, when they see the project, they don't realize how complex and how difficult it was, technically and architecturally. And I'm very happy with that, because that's a reduction in itself. That it shouldn't be felt like something very present. I'm not saying that it's neutral because there is a lot of construction,
Yeah.
but still, I know that if we hadn't made all these reductionist decisions, it would have been even more active.
Yeah.
It would have overwhelmed the ruin, overwhelmed the interior space. So,
Yeah, true. I think that this sort of feature also makes the building have a very strong contrast and quality compared to the building next to it.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah, I can see that both Kadrskava and Fehn, they have a very hard approach to connect the old site and the new concrete and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah. And, it's very interesting that when I visit that area in fieldwork, I've also heard a lot about complaining from the museum people, and for this the difficulties for using the Studhamnlaven as a museum.
Yeah.
For instance, like they said, there's no insulation and a heating system of the building, and also this well-designed exhibition makes there's no mobility for museum exhibition.
No.
That's just like this tweet said, the present curator said, expressed his feeling about that building. We love it and we hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's very interesting. So I think this at least partly true for many works from some famous architects has been accused to be far from user-friendly. So as far as you remember, did this sort of complaining happen as well to the works from Sluan Palaslad?
Do you mean in other projects or
generally?
generally?
In other project, yeah, generally.
Because this project is very peculiar in this, as I told you,
Yeah.
because it was a preservation building,
Yeah.
and then it became sort of a museum, multi-purpose building,
Yeah.
and it was never, it was never the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So this was it was a strange but affair, but it would have been, of course, in this case, extremely difficult to make a truly multi-purpose building.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, then you really had to have insulation glass
Yeah.
to have a chance in Norwegian climate, and you had to have a big heating system.
Yeah.
We have a ventilation system, we
Yeah.
dug into the ground, and we have a technical
But I think it's good enough.
Yes, it's good enough, and
Yeah.
it keeps. But it's, of course, it's a difficulty, and we have these heaters mounted, so you can actually get some heat in. But it's I can understand the museum people, but in a way, the Sverre Fehn building is more fundamental, because that's the different approach when it comes to exhibition, because it's as you say, it's completely static. It is. Sverre Fehn went, he designed this building in, what is it, 78 or something, 80 or
it's from 69 to 74.
74.
Yeah.
And then it was sort of fixed.
Yeah.
There was the old history, and then it was the Sverre Fehn history.
Yeah.
So it's and for me it's interesting, because then the exhibition, when it's for me, I think it's fantastic, and I think it's because it was Sverre Fehn and his office, and because it has this quality, it sort of constitutes history itself. It constitutes history from 70s, and this aesthetic and this, so it becomes something to preserve in itself. It's the next layer.
Yeah, true.
But the curators and the museum people, they tend to like just very maximum flexibility. They want to have their own freedom, and they want to have this change, and I think it's this is a big discussion for all kind of museums, you know.
Yeah,
and
sure.
it's and I'm not, and I think it's unfortunate that the curators have got their will in most projects lately. I'm not. We visited several projects in Portugal. We went with a friend to Portugal. We have, you know, this trip once a year.
Yeah.
And you know, Soto de Moura, the Portuguese architect, great architect, but he had this museum building in, I don't remember the name of the place, but you know, completely without natural light and completely this just general area, and I'm sure it has to do with the museum people and their agenda, and it's the same with the National Museum for the new National Museum in Oslo. They just want these completely non-personal spaces, without character, just white boxes where they can white, or they can have complete control of the lighting, no natural light, completely neutral. This is the other extreme, and for me, I think it's a pity. There is no interaction between the modern day architecture and the things being exhibited, whether it is paintings or objects or whatever. But this has more to do with exhibition ideology and museum policy. But when you talk about, I think you have to say that during the age of Lønneslotto, Kjellund and Nilslotto, this was sort of an heroic age. It was the part of a late modernism, and they championed this special brand of late modernism, this structuralism. It was called structuralism. It's a difficult word. And it was very much a kind of ideology. And when you have this very strong ideology, then it's quite. It often then becomes controversial because it has less regard for some practicalities.
Yeah, true.
You go along this line because this is the right line. You can see the parallel to politics. You can see the parallel to communism. If you have a strong ideology, you don't care about the other small practicalities or the human consequences. Of course, we are not talking about communism, but we are talking about a strong ideology. And then it's very easy to then end up in projects where certain practicalities and certain functionalities are not completely taken care of. I know Kjell and Nils, they would completely in a way deny that they didn't take this seriously, and they did take it seriously, but it was always understood in their ideological view in a way. So even if they were very much concerned about the functionality, about all sides of the functionality, they were not completely open-minded about it because they had this strong ideology and they had their own. And it was possible in that age, I think, much more than now. I mean, we are in another kind of age where all these pressures sort of for us architects and all these, the consciousness is much higher, and they are much more. We know what kind of architectural concepts that work in certain ways and not. But during the 60s especially, and also in the 70s, you had this. The architects were able to convince the clients that this is the right way. We do it this way. It will be great because of this and this and this. And but the whole industry, if you call it that, is much more professional now. So you have much more professionalism on all levels, on the client's levels, not least. So maybe it's a pity in a way, because they made some very characteristic buildings during those areas, and they were able to do it. But as you say, in a way, it's a bit hate-love relationship to many of those buildings. I think it's also it's completely the same. I think with Sverre Fehn and his buildings, and they were both Sverre Fehn's and Lene Slotto's early buildings. They were quite. They didn't have much compromise. They were very hardcore buildings. Yeah,
true.
They were beautiful. They were beautiful, and they were humane in a way. But and it's interesting because one of the other old projects that we liked very much from the Lene Slotto early phase was, of course, Santava, but another one was the Chateau Neuf. The other very cubical building with for the youth. For the students. It's a great building. But it was actually, when it was constructed, it was the most hated building in Norway, in Oslo. And it was just completely this hate object. Everybody thought it was horrible, just concrete block. And so hard. And when you came to the interior, you only saw the concrete and everything. It was, but now, this has turned completely. I'm not saying that it's one of the most loved buildings, but I think it's absolutely one of the most respected buildings.
Yeah, true.
And I think young people, it's for me, this is a very good building. We have done some work within this building now. That's 10 years back, but so I've been very much involved in that building also in a second level, second phase. But I feel now the students relate to this building. The toughness of the building is actually very good for the young people and the students. The students are not going with a tie and a white shirt. They are sort of rugged by themselves. And I think I experienced that building as a youth myself, and it was actually one of the buildings I think that actually made me interested in architecture. Because I didn't know anything about the Slotto at the time, but it sort of spoke to me, the honesty and the toughness, and so that's a building that is completely. It's not a hated building anymore in any way, and it's a very respected building. But it was so hated. But that was, of course, because it was before its time, and it was actually quite revolutionary in a way. The interesting thing, it was actually hated it was finished just when the '68 revolution came to Norway. It came a couple of years later, and it was, all the youth organizations were very radical. They were very, pro-Mao and pro-communism and extremely radical at the time. But even they hated this building.
Wow.
It was very strange. That was very strange for Kjell. Kjell never understood that because it was a radical building. But the radical people didn't. They wanted, the cozy building, or he couldn't understand that. And I agree with him. In retrospect, for me, of course. But he experienced this. He was very. But in a way, he was convinced of his own project, and I think it's. But of course, we work and we have all these buildings. They were, as I say, without compromise, and they all have their difficulties, one way or the other, either technical or functional. But it's not none of the buildings are catastrophic in a way. They work and they are still.
So it's just about the shape and the form and details.
I don't know. Another one of the projects we like very much is the is the first part of the Veritas complex. It's the big office complex at Høvikodden, just outside town.
Could you write down this?
Have you seen this book?
I borrowed this one.
Because we can just this is Chateau Neuf, the cubicle building. This is very tough. It's a it's a sort of brutalism, but it's a very nice building, I think. And it has much to do with the Santalvar, because also here it's the circle within the square and the combination. But this is not a church building. It's so it's. But this is very nice, and I think the first part of the Veritas project. The Veritas project is a huge office and laboratory project. This is the first part, and this is, I think, one of the best example of this structuralism that London Chateau was very well known for, and they developed, and I think they developed further than not only than any other Norwegian architect, practically than any other architect anyway. And the structuralism, the whole idea was that the building structure should be the aesthetic in itself. It's not. It's the opposite of having a construction and then putting something completely different on the outside. It's all about honesty and clearness, sort of show using that to make as I say, the aesthetic of the building itself. So they use this. This is a very consequent. Not consequent. This is a very without compromise. You can see this is a very interesting picture because they use the system and they don't take it off. They use the system with open ends because it is an organism. It's a technical organism. But at the same time they use it with a great sense of feeling. The material, how it matches the landscape, and this is very much a Nils Slotto project, and it's typical for him. He was very much concerned, with the feel of the project also, and so they use this quite systematic structure to differentiate the volumes and of course the functions around this courtyard and into this landscape. So it becomes a beautiful building from a very hard core sort of and a huge structure, and this is also actually a natural park landscape, and people walk around this building, a huge office building. They use this as recreational space.
So where's it located?
Just outside the town. If you have a map, I can show you. Because I think it's. It's a really nice project, but again, technically, this project was, of course, had some big difficulties because they used the concrete construction, as you see visually on the outside, and you can imagine in the cold climate of Norway, this becomes quite. It's not very good, well insulated,
It's a small map. I'm not sure it's.
No, it's not big enough. It's not far out. It's just by car. It's from. We are here. We are here. And it's just 10 minutes out. By car.
I'll put this and check it out.
Let's do that. Actually, I will check one thing. I will present you a gift. You will get this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
It's we have quite a few left, and I think when you are doing this study,
Yeah, thank you so much. It's very kind of you.
It's a pleasure.
Could you show me that the students of net building?
Yeah, the students. It's
I must visit.
just by Majorstuen. It's also that is actually just outside this map.
Okay.
It's this is called Majorstuen. It's a main crossing.
Yeah.
And you have the big Vigelands Park.
Yeah.
So it's here.
Okay, I see.
It's on this road.
Yeah.
So it's here. You see.
Yeah, I have to see it.
Yeah, I think it was. But I mentioned this because it's not a very practical building when it comes to the technical aspect. Well, it's actually just the insulation part.
Yes.
It's but it's the ideology of showing the structure, but it becomes problematic.
Yeah.
So they have some problem with it, but if you go there, you should just know that there are two phases of this project.
Yeah.
It's the first phase, which is the really heroic one, which we really like.
Yeah.
Then there's the second one, which is a nice project, which is not really. It came not that many years later, but this one.
Yeah.
So. This is, you can see, some years later into the 80s, and it's a nice project, but it lacks sort of the power or the real toughness of the old one. It's not as this is more ordinary. It's a beautiful and nice project, and it fits very well into this landscape and so on. But it's not. It doesn't have the very strong character of the first one. But just if you visit it, you will see that immediately, because there is this. You enter, you come here, and you have the slightly newer one on your left hand side, and you have the old one on the right hand side. But it's a very. That's typical also of Nils Lotto. He was very much concerned with the building inside, in the landscape and so on. Very much, very much on the detailing, and it's a great project.
Yeah, but I think anyway the time will test if the work is good architecture or not.
So we actually won a competition about the third part of this area situated in the back. Yeah, so we are working on that now.
I think people got this sort of complaining from renowned architects, probably also because that the people tend to keep the routine way of their lives. But I remember when I visited that small church, St. Magnus Church. And the local people I met, they said, it's a strange way of church. And then they said, it's leaking. That's very interesting.
That's completely true, of course, because most people are not. Most people like what they are familiar with. Very
true.
Easy. I mean, it comes to. They don't like to taste another kind of food, and they don't like to taste another kind of, and then so it's and some of the best designs are also challenging. I mean, they are more hardcore, as we say, and that's sort of. It's simply the way it is in my mind, because if you are stretching, or if you are really striving for something very specific, then you will sort of go further away from what is the compromise, the normal and normality. You will push it further, and that comes to every kind of cultural expression or artistic expression.
Sure.
Of course, the fundamental difficulty with architecture is that it's always built for people. And they are not connoisseurs. They are not especially interested. Some are.
Yeah.
And of course, when you make you make a home or a residential building for a certain client.
Yeah.
He may be especially interested, but when you make a public building or a working place, you are actually designing for many people. And this is a difficulty. We can never sort of. We have to have these special projects, and as I said with the Chateau Neuf, with the other one, it's quite interesting because it was so hated, and now it's not hated. And it shows you have to have someone who, pushing the limits and making a statement and opening up sort of society. It's like when people first heard the Beatles, everybody didn't like Beatles in a way, or 90% of the population didn't like Beatles. When now everybody thinks Beatles is fantastic and will always be loved. Some people have to open up new ways of experiencing, whether it is music or architecture. Or
true. I think the minds are always changing. It is.
And that's the cultural development.
Yeah, true.
The cultures are actually, whether they are moving forward, but they are actually they are developing. They are changing. The sensibility that the general public, and I feel I can, during my I worked as an actor for 25 years or something, 22 years. And I think there has been a lot of change in the general public's and in the sensibility of and understanding of the general public during those years. In Norway, at least, they have become the general awareness of architecture and sensibility to architecture is on a much higher level now than for 25 years back. So that's a good thing. They're more interested and they are more tolerant. They accept more differences and they accept more difficult buildings.
Yes.
But still, you have a lot of people being very conservative, but I think the development, the process, it's a good, it's a positive development, as I see it. In overall.
So as far as you can remember, was there any dissatisfaction for realizing the idea in that project?
Any
dissatisfaction? Any some concepts you want to?
Yes. From our side. No, I think this is one of the few projects where I don't, as I said, because take a typical project, there is always something you should have liked to have done or have had the money to do or get the client to do, or maybe even your own choices. You look at it back and then you say, maybe I should have changed that color a little bit, I'm very much like this. I have a big problem with, at least for the first years, to enjoy my own project, because I always focus on the small part that wasn't perfect. So it's easier 10 years afterwards, because then it's easier to look at it and say, okay, it's quite nice actually. you did. But this project, I think, a little bit, it was a kind of project, we were really, in a way, in awe in relationship to the job at hand. We were very respectful in a way that this ruin being there forever in a way, and so we were very. It has much to do with what I told you about the reductionist way of doing it. And I was quite happy with the choices we made, as I said, and I think all the main choices with the construction and the glazing and the detailing, there is not really, I don't think there is anything specific I would have done differently. The overall concept is something, as I said, it's not mine. that is Kjellun's, and I never. That was the winning proposal. I never questioned that in a way, and I never felt the need to question it. In a way, if you ask me personally, I'm not. I would probably have not got to that answer. Of course, I would not have done the same concept. I don't disagree with it, but if there's something in the back of my mind which I have never sort of. This is not. I'm not saying it's something critical, if you understand. But it's something to do with, again, the sensibility. I would have perhaps not approached it. I still think maybe it's almost a bit too literal with the vault. Yeah. If you understand. Yeah. This is just now we are talking about something. This is the project with the vault, and it has a great aspect of explaining the space, making a very clear space. It becomes very like a church space, very much like a church space. Almost a bit too much, in a way. If I could question one thing. But I do not have I'm not saying that I would have done anything, better than Kjellun, and by far from it. I respect his, and the whole twisted shape. I think is very, very nice. I think it's very. It has this asymmetrical symmetry, which is very great at the site and so on. So and the play with the curved glass, but it's just but you can ask different architects and they will have their different conceptual ideas about it. And
so has the firm of Leon Plaslato been involved in many architectural conservation projects before and after this case?
Not at all. In a way, maybe slightly surprising, but of course there are not that many. It's a quite unique project. And of course, Slott has been more involved in church projects.
Sure.
So that's. But this preservation, this is a unique project for us, and I don't think there are many projects in Norway as such. Such a big preservation structure is, of course, quite unique. There are certain examples around Europe, but you have to go around Europe, not more than Norway, I think.
So does the Leon Plaslato architects have a sort of a preference of building projects? I mean,
well, if we have, you mean kind of projects? We have sort of, this has a little bit to do with something just happens along the way, because we have most of our projects are actually commercial projects at the time. They're what I would call rather high-profile office buildings. That's the sort of 50% of our whole turnover. I wouldn't say that it's just by chance, but of course chance has some place into it, because if you do one or two of these projects and you are successful, you get invited into new competitions, and then you have it going along. And in a way, it's there is a chance element in this, but we do a lot of projects when we do, and we are now at this moment in our development, we are more striving for projects that are more similar to let's say that are not the commercial project. We have project now. We won an open competition this year actually with 180 participants.
Yeah.
So we were quite happy to win it,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a project for sort of. It's a pilgrimage center and information center
Mm-hmm.
connected to, or not directly connected, but situated just close to one of the old stave churches.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
We have these very special,
Beautiful timber stave
churches. So it's in the middle of nowhere, far away from any city. There's one of the state churches, few remaining, and they are going to make. But this is a place for pilgrimage, modern day pilgrimage.
Yeah.
So we are going to make. So we have designed this pilgrimage sort of place and information, sort of museum information pilgrimage.
Yeah.
It's partly a church function because it's the priest is going to have his office there, and there it's going to be a room for burying people and so on.
Yeah.
So it's partly church, partly museum in a way. So this kind of project is something we are striving for now to have more of.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. So we are, but the biggest part of our doing at the time is our commercial projects, more like these.
I see.
But we are trying. We are very much, we are very interested. We are striving to have this variety of projects. We don't want to be, and we don't. We're not. We do not want. We're not striving to get the biggest project necessarily. Not big. We don't want to have these huge university or airport or hospital projects. That's not our thing. We would like. We want to have more control of the shape of the buildings.
Yeah, I think that's natural.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are quite specific about what kind of project we do.
Yeah.
And we're even more so now in the future. There's been, the history of Lindesslottet was. We had a difficult, in many ways, the 90s and the start of the 20s was it was a transitional period between the old founders and the new owners. And during the 90s we had quite a wide partnership. And it didn't work very well.
Yeah.
I mean, we made some projects that we are not very proud of now. But the whole firm became too divided, architecturally and also sort of psychologically.
Yeah. So there's about 35 staff in your firm, right?
35 years.
Yeah.
35 to 40 years.
It's a quite big size, or middle size in Norway.
It's a big middle, or or small big.
Yeah.
And we are quite happy with that. We are quite specific about not wanting to become one of the very biggest. That's not our thing.
Yeah.
We want to have more. We are mainly doing this to produce interesting architecture. We are not, this big firm.
And
we don't want to be that. So we are. But through this transition phase, when now we are just 3 partners and 2 of us are heading the firm architecturally, and so we are a much tighter group in a way, tighter firm.
Yeah.
Although we are 35, and we are very much heading in the right direction. We have had a lot of competition victories the last 8 to 10 years. So we are just going forward now. So it's a very good situation.
Yeah. So compared to when Lune and Slow, they were feeding out from the practice. So is there something the same or totally different working group or patterns in the firm?
We have to say that during the last, well, actually I think we could say from the 80s already, it was very much Lund that was the main in charge. You know, more and more Slotto just made his projects, sort of on the sideline. The big office was really, just to explain to you. I think very much has changed, and we are different personalities. But I think, as we talked about, the most basic sort of dedication and search for architecture and the way of working with architecture, that's the legacy.
Yeah, true.
It's on a very fundamental level. Everything around it, how we organize the office, how we work with all our employees, and how we, all that has changed. And I think it's for the better. It's a much more modern and open and dynamic way of working, not as hierarchical.
Yeah, that's natural.
That's natural. We are a different age. And but the fundamental, and not only with the methodology, but this striving and this always questioning, but also there is a certain basic understanding of architecture. These, as I pointed out, this very heroic early project. We are not, of course, there, and it's not possible to do this kind of project anymore. I mean, you have all the technical aspects that will not make this possible. But there is an element of this approach to architecture as a very coherent whole, where the structure and the shape and the architectural expression is one organism. This organism thinking about architecture. Certain architects, many of the architects that we are competing against all the time, they do not have this same approach. They more like they make a structure and then they put on a facade. If you understand what I mean. They put on the skin and they design the skin and the elements and design elements. And we are maybe too much reductionist. Sometimes we have to ask ourselves, maybe we should make more fun or more feeling or more. But we are very much like that. We are very analytical and very down to what the building is in itself. Very much concerned with the character of the buildings we are doing in a very fundamental way. Not in a easy design. We are not, just looking at the papers and what.
So compared to,
there is something about this fundamental approach.
True.
But this is a very fundamental approach. This has nothing. It doesn't tell you how to do the next building, and you can do it many ways. But the approach is the connection.
So compared to,
and that's really why we have never changed the name. Because this was, of course, we have discussed that many times during the years, but also because the change was very gradual. When we finished this building, the big, as we were talking about. Kjellund had a very much more secondary role in the firm. So we never sort of felt what is the right moment to change the name. And Slotto hadn't worked actively for a long time. He was even dead by then. And Kjellund was very happy that we continued with the name. He was very proud that we kept on their name. So all these elements together, sort of made us decide that it's a nice name. It's well known. It has a nice ring to it. It's short, Lund and Slotto. It's not like now we are called Peterson and Bjørnstad and Ormhaug. It doesn't have the nice ring to it. So many of all these elements, but the fundamental part is that we feel part of the same development. It's not. These are not our projects, but we feel them very much in our core when we design. Especially the ones we have talked about. This one and the Chateau Neuf and the St. Halvard, of course, and a couple of others, we always use as reference points, sort of. We don't copy them in any way, but there is something about the feel and the definitely and the character and the feel of the project that we are.
Compare even to 15 or 20 years ago, is the way of building, like to the material application has been changed a lot, because for example, like I noticed that now really for the architect office that we use bricks and things like that, and for the work.
Yes, you mean that there is less brick and some bricks?
Yeah, I found the way of construction is more and more like decoration, installation, and
definitely, and that's of course that's something we work sort of against that, because we would, but you can never be as sort of literal like this again. I think. But to use the materials and in a more direct and honest way. It's just words when I say it, but it really has meaning for us.
Yeah.
You know, we are always trying. We are very concerned about this balance, not to use materials just for an effect. You know? Or if the effect it has to, then it has to fit into the hierarchy of the building.
Yeah.
You know, an organism can also have perhaps a little bit of lipstick.
Yeah, true.
I mean, but it should not be confused with the skeleton or the bodywork.
Yeah.
So it's these things are just these kind of problems we are always striving with, and we are very much concerned about them. I think we are more concerned about them than many of the other architects doing commercial projects and so on. They are. It's a bit, you know. I don't like sitting here and, you know, bragging, but I think we are quite serious in what we are doing.
Yeah,
we are not. We're not superficial.
Yeah, this I'm just mentioning. I'm just saying this because I think this is part of the tradition from the old one. This is part of how we are thinking about architecture.
Yeah, that's very well true. Because compared to the many works in this time, I did feel the strong strains from the material, from the range of material and things, but I can barely feel in many popular works. That's, I think that's a very interesting question. Because you know, like this year, a Chinese architect, Wang Shu, he won this Pritzker Architectural Prize. And one of his typical way of working is that he always he always adopt the experience from traditional craftsmanship and cooperated closely with workers who's really good at it. And I remember once he commented the trends of architecture. He said that I want to build something really connected with the material and with the grounds, which is dirty and not so clean and so neat like that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very interesting. Because it is a problem making modern architecture, because all the technology is very clean, as you say, too clean.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So what was your impression about the...
I'm sorry, I'm running a little bit out of time now.
Yeah, sorry.
But we,
I will speed up.
Just 5 minutes or something.
Just a few questions. Sorry.
I will try to be quick.
So what was your impression about the conservation people and museum people in that project?
Well, they were, there is actually a person called Ragnar Pedersen.
I've read many books written by him.
Ragnar Pedersen. He was the he was the most involved, and he was. I think it was he played a very good part. He was always very interested, and he stood for the the other perspective. When it comes to the the conservationist perspective, he was very heavily involved. So he stood for the humanistic and historical and museum aspect. But very much he's a very humanistic person. He was concerned about how the building would work and how the space would work, and the feeling of the building. So he had a very good impact, from the sideline, I think. Very nice, very great person to work with.
So, as an architect, what kind of? I think this is a little bit. We have already talked about a little bit. What kind of quality of work you think made a good architecture or bad architecture?
So I think we are taught quite some about it. It's of course. It's difficult to say in a few words. I mean, in a way, quality in architecture, as it is in music, I'm very much into music, and that's my big interest beside architecture. So I often compare music and architecture, and you can put words on it, but when it comes, in the final. On the final level, it's something you experience. I mean, you can't actually reduce artistic quality in 2 words. It's a directly felt experience. Of course, then you can go back and try to analyze what makes this building such a great building, or what makes this music such a moving piece of music, and you will find certain answers, but. You can never explain it completely. There is something what is not said, which is the actual beauty element. And I'm not afraid to use the word beauty, because the beauty is it's a very common word, but on the fundamental level we are talking about beauty. Also, one of these hard buildings, they have certainly a sense of beauty. A fundamental kind of beauty, not the pleasurable, easy way, what you like, because that is so much determined by what you are used to seeing. But the more fundamental kind of beauty is often the one you have to work to understand. You have to experience it in a more fundamental way. But there is, I'm also a humility towards other architects also. I mean, I see a lot of architects around that I'm not very impressed with. Of course, daily, everywhere, all around the globe. But there is also, on the other hand, there are many architects that work very differently from us and from Slottet, who I have the deepest respect for. Of course, like in music, there are extremely different kinds of music. And they are fantastic in their own way. So I have the deepest respect. You can't say you have to work in this ideology or this way, or use these materials. So we can only work, on our path through the woods. We cannot, and I think you have to be true to yourself also. I have my temperament and my personality, and I'm part of this stream, but I have a very deep respect for others. But the fundamental aspect is really that I think all good architecture and all good artistic expressions has to do with this path through the woods, that you really have to strive far enough. You have to pull it as far as you can. You have to realize certain qualities and certain characteristics, not only taken from the pages and having this looks nice. It's really quite, in a way, architecture has less to do with how things looks than people imagine.
Yeah.
It's not. It is much more to do with how things are felt, and also in a fundamental way how things are understood. It's a spatial quality, but it also is a tactile quality, and it's an intellectual quality.
Yeah, true.
And all this together. But if I could make a criticism of the kind of architecture that doesn't appeal to me, and I don't think have a lasting quality, is that they are often very much designed only one-dimensionally. So that they are designed, you can sort of feel that they are drawn on a two-dimensional piece of paper, and it may look nice or it may not look nice, but it's not thought of as a whole building.
Yeah.
So that's an easy way to work, and it's we live in a commercial world, and of course many people take the easy way out. It's a big subject. It's a very big question. Yeah. I can speak. Speak about this for a couple of hours.
Yes,
we could have an interesting discussion.
So, except Lyon and Zlatov, do you have any sort of architectural heroes in different period in your mind?
I'm perhaps I wouldn't say I have one or two heroes. It's like my interest in music. I like so many musicians. So that I truly love, truly admire, and the same with architects. There are so many I really admire, and there are so many modern and also historic great architects. For me, it's not. Of course, you have your personal favorites among them, but they are so many. So there are many, there are many studios and architects at the time being, at the present time, that I admire very much. I could tell you 20 architects. So, but for me, it's not like one or two. It's not. It's simply not. Maybe when I was 25 I could give you one or two, but for me now I'm as I say, I respect very much architects that work also differently from us. We have seen, we went to Spain last year, and so many works of RCR architects in northern Spain. Great pieces of work. And I was just the other day in Stuttgart and saw again the museum by UN Studios. UN Studios make very great pieces of architecture.
Right. Yeah. That's also about my almost my last question. So this pragmatic design and building information modeling become rather important topic in design field. So. How about the application of this sort of related way of working in Leuven's level?
Of course, we are part of the development here, and it's, as we said, it was a very relevant aspect of the Reinebygg because of its complex geometry. Of course, we are not. We don't come to work with this kind of complex geometries every day. It's sort of limited to the kind of projects you do have. We are very much fascinated by that, and as I just mentioned UN Studios, but I think has done some of the most convincing examples of complex geometry and architecture
We would like to do more of that I could say.
Yeah.
It's as I said, it's a question of opportunities also.
Yeah, true.
Because
it's
of course it's high cost building.
Yeah, definitely.
And
and it's,
you know,
it's
the Mercedes Museum in Stuttgart. It's a fantastic building. I mean, amazing in its. I think is so well thought through and performed, sort of executed. Everything just is right in a very complex shape. But it's immensely expensive.
Yeah, true.
Exactly. It would be, but I think we know how to handle complex geometry at this firm. So it would be an ambition to to be more part of that again.
Yeah. And this is going to be my last question. So how did you know about Chinese architecture in past and today? Do you have any comments on it?
We see a lot of, it would be very nice to come to China because we see a lot of interesting architecture. Of course, there is very much going on in China, so it's a little bit difficult to have the overall view.
Yeah, true.
To know actually what's happening there and all the architects and so on.
It's just a huge market.
It's a huge market, and we talked about it just the other way that we should perhaps sort of try to understand it a little bit better because it's an interesting market. Perhaps we don't work very much outside of Norway. We have one big project now in Lithuania, but perhaps China could be interesting, we see a lot of horrible projects.
Yeah, that's
of course, but that's always the case when you have this enormous boom, economic boom, and you see really horrible projects.
Yeah, and I think that's a typical during this high-speed transforming period.
Exactly. So, but we see also some very interesting projects, and I have to admit that I can hardly remember the names because I have just seen them. I have one of the one seeking out this book. You can find it. He's my assistant when it comes to keeping me informed. So he gives me all these interesting projects, and we look at quite a few of the Chinese at the time. I think there are many things going on. Even Mongolia.
Yeah,
I just saw this amazing project in Mongolia.
Erdos.
It was a museum.
Erdos Museum.
I think
I got that. I made a lecture at school for the students. This is about the work of a firm I used to work on. I still have my position in that firm.
Okay.
Yeah. No, mainly our projects, the museum project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I think you probably mentioned this one.
Ja.
Ska vi bara starta?
Det får bara göra det. Jag kommer vart över.
This one?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And it's,
this is also from the architect. It's in Canada. Minister Guo. This is him. It's
very interesting with these organic geometries.
He used to work in Zaha's firm.
Okay.
Yeah. And, he take his education in the US.
Okay. Now, so there is a lot of this also a very interesting more structural approach.
Yeah.
As we talked about. So there is. I would like that to actually to learn a little bit more about it. We just talked about it. It's a coincidence, but we just talked about it the other day.
Yeah.
Just this week.
This is all my questions. Also, there's a few practical issues I would like to ask. One is, I think, I wonder if I could get authorization for using some drawings of the project.
Sure. That's no problem.
And also, Do you know something about Leon recently? Is he in health for a visit?
No, he's in poor health. Well, he's not in poor health, but mentally he's in poor health.
Yeah. Oh, that's sad.
So it's not easy to have a good conversation with him.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah. Well, he's old, you know. It happens to old people. So he has this slight dementia, you know. So he forgets what he says immediately. So he will say the same thing 4 times, if you understand what I mean. So it's very difficult to have a good conversation with him.
Sad.
But he's 80. He's what is he? He's 87.
Yeah, 85.
85. Yes.
Yeah.
Born 27. Yeah, he's 85. That's true. So it's not. It's like I mean, his health is okay. I mean, physically.
Yeah.
So, but it's difficult to talk to. You know.
Yeah. Anyway, it's good to know that he's still in health.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's no pain involved or anything like that. So it's okay.
Yeah.
You can also. I think you can have one of these. Do you have it?
No. Yeah.
You can get it.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah. It's very
but this is the only example I have. So if you,
I will make copy and
you can do it here if you want to.
Okay.
On the copy machine before you leave.
Yeah, sure.
That's
good.
most practical. So you don't need to come back.
Yeah. That's great.
I have to go to this
please.
This is the whole office discussing a project. So it's
thank you so much for today.
You're welcome. I will show you the copy machine.
Yeah.
So just